So welcome to May Day, right? Everybody ready to stand up and fight back, right? Stand up, fight back. See, if it was all CWAers, they'd be standing up and chanting, because that's what we do. So it is exciting to be together here on May Day. The last time we used this room like this was 2 weeks ago. We had 3 of the 99% spring trainings here. For baseball fans, we call them spring trainings. That was great and very moving, because Larry had people, lots of people who didn't know each other, but who believed that we have to build a movement here for economic justice and democracy. And so it's in that same spirit. And since then, many actions, over 50,000 people got trained, 250 in this room. Very, very proud of that. Lots of CWAers around the country. And yeah. And Sarita, who's back here, was one of the leaders of the 99% Spring Jobs with Justice, and I'm sure others in the room as well. But since then, taking action, right? So taking action at shareholders' meetings, numerous ones, Wells Fargo, it was a big bash, General Electric, Wells Fargo in San Francisco, GE in Detroit. And Thursday, we go to, who knows? And why Huntsville, Alabama? Yeah, so we have a slogan. I think Verizon must have heard it. You can run, but you can't hide. Next time we'll be right inside. Well, Verizon, used to have their shareholder meetings in places like Pittsburgh, and we had thousands there. And then they moved to Fort Wayne, Indiana, and we still had 1,000 there. And then they moved to Little Rock, Arkansas, and we still had almost 1,000 there. So this year, they came up with Huntsville, Alabama. And many folks, including lots of SLAP members, right, Sarita? Student Labor Action Project, will soon be getting on buses to Huntsville. And so even in Huntsville, Alabama, again, we will be able to chant inside. Verizon, you can run, but you can't hide. Once again, we're here inside. And more importantly, in some ways, so we expect 500 people inside. That's a lot for Huntsville, because there'll probably be a room like this. They're not expecting anyone to show up, but they're beginning to learn otherwise. And actually, I want to give a shout out to Brother Kavanaugh, because he helped write this piece today that ran all over the place on the internet, called Shortchanging America. Verizon is the poster child for corporate irresponsibility. So thanks, John, and thanks, IPS. And apparently you're running a piece on the Corporation of the Week, the flavor of the week, right? Every week. So this is Verizon Week, and next week, Charlotte, who do we have? Bank of America in Charlotte, and there's another Charlotte one, right? There's another Charlotte one coming the week after, I forget which one. But anyway, that's the idea. So I'm going to, talk a little bit about sort of an approach to all this, but I think this is in the spirit of May Day. We want to think about folks, around the world today standing up and fighting back. And so this is a great present I got last week. I was in Dusseldorf. And I'm going to talk for just a minute about the work we're doing with Verdi, which is one of the 2 really large 2 million member unions in Germany. And Verdi stands for United Service Workers. And this Verdi flag, so last, I lose track of the dates, but anyway, whatever day it was last week, I was there with them. They're on rolling strikes. So when we think about what's happened to rights in the United States, so Verdi is on strike at Deutsche Telekom. And they have the right to go out and come back in, and go out and come back in, and spread the strikes in all kinds of ways. So anyway, last week was a big strike day in Dusseldorf, and 10,000 strikers came to Dusseldorf, many of them Deutsche Telekom workers in Dusseldorf. And actually, so that was on a Tuesday. On Monday, though, now remembering the days, on Monday I was in a big call center. And if any of you think of what call centers are like here, they're like locked up factories. You're impossible for anybody to get in, including in the T-Mobile campaign, where when Verdi members come here to organize, and Tony's been with them, right, Tony, you get arrested. Well, at the call center in Dusseldorf, it's a little bit different. So I roamed around the building with my friends for hours, and 250 call center workers who are striking workers, and they were on strike the next day, Tuesday, signed this for their CWA colleagues, for Tony and others here who have been working on this campaign to try to bring organizing rights to T-Mobile workers in the U.S. and this contradiction between what it's like to be a call center worker, one of these folks, in Dusseldorf, and their working conditions, and their standard of living, and most importantly, their rights on the job, and the whole Works Council and how that functions, where they actually get to co-manage. And there are virtually no bosses in this whole building of hundreds and hundreds of workers doing call center work. And they have better lighting, and they have more space, and they have desks that go up and down. And it's like any way you want to measure it. And so when we think about, we all have our personal stories, and in fact, the 99% spring training, what you get trained in is how to tell your story in like 2 minutes and unite with this brother's story, who I don't know, right in the front row, right? So you got a story of why you're here. I got my story. The whole deal is we each have a story. And whether we're a call center worker in Dusseldorf or a call center worker in Frisco, Texas, where T-Mobile is about to shut down the center there, 3,400 workers in this country are going to lose their jobs, 7 centers closing. What do we have in common in this fight? And I think that's really the spirit of May Day, and at least what I'm thinking about here today. And I think about these folks, and they don't just have great strikes. So we marched for miles, 10,000 people rallied. They closed the streets of Dusseldorf for this rally. They had signs up all over saying traffic will be diverted, don't drive downtown. I mean, it's a whole another world. And you think about this democracy and where it is now, and Germany and where it was and where it is now, and dozens of other examples around the world where workers' rights are rising, not collapsing, where working people, Judy, don't have to give up their jobs. You shouldn't give up your life or your job. This isn't a choice we're going to make. We're not giving up our jobs, and we're not giving up our lives, and we're not giving up our future, and we're not giving up our dreams. So, again, I think it's in that spirit that we're here today. So that T-Mobile campaign is called We Expect Better. Tony, how do you say it in German? Yeah, I don't know if anybody heard him, but that's okay. I'm not repeating it. They put up with me speaking only in English there. I say about 4 words and I'm done. But we expect better. So the whole idea is that how does this company, and this is only important to the T-Mobile workers and those of us working on this campaign here, and the Deutsche Telekom workers, there's dozens of campaigns like this now. This is what the work that Judy's talking about means. It's about more symmetry. In the past, we would say we're struggling for rights of workers in X, as she said, developing country, global south. Now we're saying we're struggling for rights of workers everywhere. We're fighting to build a democracy movement everywhere. And it's in that spirit that we launched this campaign, formed a new union called the TU. Workers here actually joined Verdi and CWA because the American labor movement, frankly, can't support campaigns like this. I don't mean financially, because we can do that. But we can't support them in terms of real rights for workers to organize. The only way workers at T-Mobile, 25,000 occupational workers. That doesn't count, engineers and professionals. This is just call center workers, retail workers, technicians. The only way those workers have any right at all to organize in this country, and we have to understand, internalize, take this in and fight back, is if the Deutsche Telekom workers essentially make this their issue in fighting that management in the home base. We are now at a point where there are basically no rights for workers to organize in this country. It doesn't mean we won't organize. It doesn't mean we won't fight back. But we have to understand what's happened to this democracy, particularly to American workers. So, the little booklet that's here, and again, this is only meant to be an illustration of, I think, the kind of work we can all do. It's not just about CWA. So I think you all have one. I'm going to just zip through it, and then you'll have it. So we call it Building a Movement for Economic Justice and Democracy. Why? Because we all started out, and this is the 25th anniversary of Jobs with Justice, focused on economic justice issues, including bargaining and organizing rights, decent health care, retirement security, and jobs, secure, stable, sustainable jobs. And what we've come to learn is the collapse of the democracy here is directly related to the collapse of economic justice issues. So for our union, for I would argue all unions, public sector, private sector, Railway Labor Act, NLRB, this is what the end looks like. Really. We need to be speaking truth here to get ourselves going again. This is what the end looks like.